Beyond the Arc with Coach Gebbia, Dan Laing alongside Coach Gebbia. And when you take a look at the way that this season, you guys enter the postseason, it's against Navy, a team that you faced 3 times in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty wacky way that the schedule panned out, and then of course the way the bracket ended up setting up.
It's not my favorite way to go into postseason is doing that, but you have to do whatever, wherever you finish, you end up playing the teams you play. In some ways, it's probably good because you have the same person doing the scout, and there's less new things to go over. So in some ways, it's helpful. You always want to try to get the team motivated to play them, and that's, I think, for me, the hardest thing is they just played them, and now you're trying to motivate them again to play the same team, and they kind of look at you sideways. But Navy's a tough team. They're smaller than most teams in the conference, but they play well together. They have some scorers back that weren't there the first time we played them, so I think that makes it a little bit more difficult. But I'm excited, just for postseason play. I think the team's pumped up for that as well.
What are some of the things that you can do to try to, get them focused, get them really amped up, so to speak, for facing a team a third time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's hard, Dan. I mean, for anybody, I think the thing I would do is really talk more about the plays in which they run, and then try to figure out different ways that we can score based on how they defended us. I don't know if that gets them motivated, but you have to think strategically and finding different ways, and it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be really hard to play them on Saturday, knowing that it's a chess match every time you go out there against Navy, and trying to add a couple little tweaks to what we do, and I'm sure Steph will do the same.
And there's not really much you can add because again, you've just faced each other a few days ago, so it's not really, you don't even have time, even if you wanted to throw in a couple new wrinkles.
Yeah, you just kind of try to show them film a little bit and say, well, they guarded this way, so maybe you can adjust to their adjustment. I guess it really is, like I said, going back and forth. But I know the girls will be excited. I know they're already excited that it's March and that the weather's getting a little bit warmer. You just feel a little bit better about yourself. We're trying in practice to kind of cut the amount of time that we're in practice. Watch a little bit more film, a little less on your legs. Just trying to take the pressure off that way. I think we're a little tired, and I think for us to be able to help them in any way, it's taking care of your body, and some of that is just me not going an hour and a half, 2 hours a day before a game. So.
Does every team feel that way, or do you think it's because this squad is a little bit younger than some of the others that you've had, so maybe they're feeling a little, for lack of a better term, worn down than others?
I think what you said latter-wise. I think because we're a little younger and some of these players haven't played the amount of minutes that they're playing this late into the season, I think that's part of it. I'm not saying that the juniors and seniors aren't tired. I know they are, but they know how to kind of fight through it a little bit better than the younger sophomores and freshmen can. So I do think that's part of it, and I'm trying my best to get them to eat right and get your ice baths done and just make sure you get the proper amount of rest and things like that to prepare your body. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be a struggle. And as the postseason is, we're going to have to, if we hopefully we get a chance to play 4 games, but 4 games in a week is a lot. So it starts now. So hopefully they'll be ready. We'll see.
When you look at trying to get the players ready for it and getting them focused on basketball, it's a high pressure point in the season. It's also a high pressure point when you look at the academic side of things. The student part of student athlete is really coming out this time of year as well. So talk about a delicate balance and trying to get everybody ready and focused, and that's got to be a tough gig for a coach this time of year to keep everything.
All I can say is that we have student athletes, that we have a group of young ladies that really care about their studies, and so that's a great thing. That's kind of another reason why I'm trying to shorten up practice. They have more time to study and stuff. It is like midterms coming up right before spring break, so it is a high pressure situation for them. The upperclassmen have been through it, so they know how to handle it. The younger ones are trying the best they can, and like I said, they have to understand that academics comes first, and that's what we preach when we recruit them. That's what we expect when they're here, that we do not have to worry about them in the classroom. So I'm just trying to take the pressure off basketball wise to a degree in which we're not suffering on the court, but it's at the same time that they can get more work in.
Back to the floor, when you take a look at how the team is doing here down the stretch and the growth perspective of things, and then you take a look at the bracket and how the bracket is set right now, you say that you're pleased with the way the bracket has unfolded at this point.
Yeah, if you look at it based on what has happened in the regular season, the people on our side of the bracket are all people we've at least split split with, or whatever. So it's kind of nice that way. And you see the teams that have kind of, beat us twice and that have big kids and big posts that we don't have to face unless we get to the championship game, which is really nice. And I think when we told our team that, I think they're like, oh, that's true. I don't think they really thought about it that way. And you're trying at any point in time right now to give the players confidence. And I think that's what they need in order to go in and try to knock some people off. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy by any stretch, but I just think, it gives you a little bit more confidence knowing that you've at least split with every team on your side.
Do you think that is giving them confidence? Do you think when they looked at it, they're like, oh, okay, that is a valid point. Like, we didn't think about that. Like, that's something that kind of turned on the light bulb?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw their faces in the locker room when I was talking about that, and I was like, oh, okay, good. I kind of perked them up a little bit, which is what you want to do. But we also know that going into those games are not going to be easy, and that we still have to game plan, and we still have to execute, and we still have to grow, like we talked about earlier. Just the growth has been great to see, just because even though it's not always ending up in wins, you could see the confidence factor. You could see people starting to fill their roles now. And you see the experience kind of coming through, and them feeling better about each other. Even in practice, there's more chemistry. You could see the second group challenging the first group, and that's what you want. You want a balance, and we're hitting that balance right now, and it just needs to show up in games.
What's the biggest part or biggest point of growth that you've seen? Is there anything that you've been like, wow, okay?
Well, you see the learning process. So we expect a lot of them when we go over scouts defensively. I think we're extremely detail-oriented, and what I see, and especially in the freshman and the sophomore class, I see them starting to get it. I see them kind of being in the moment and being able to think through the moment, and not like, oh, well, you messed this up, let's go back and do it again because you messed it up and this is what should happen. It's like they're actually doing it correctly at the right time, and that tells me they're starting to understand it. And that's probably the most exciting for me, because once we get the defensive side of the ball down and we're not thinking as much at that end, then we're going to free up a little bit on the offensive end.
And that's really one of your big keys, is to figure out ways to score more.
That's correct. I mean, we've been struggling in the scoring aspect, and we're so capable. I see it every day in practice. It's like, why is it not showing up? And I think it's, not having to think so much and just be you on the offensive end. And some of them are, like, you can see Jade right now and Fish. I mean, those two in particular, Jade's shooting the ball extremely well from three, and I know she's capable, and it's finally happening. Fish is just playing so much better. She's putting a lot of pressure on the defense in transition and things like that, and she's finding her way to score. So again, you're adding more pieces, and that's what you want. And one of these days, Dan, they're all going to show up on the same day, and we're going to blow the doors off somebody, I hope. But I'm looking forward to that day, and I'm hoping that it happens soon.
We talked about confidence, and one of the things when you look at Emily Fisher, when she comes onto the floor, she seems to immediately bring confidence.
Yes,
I mean,
confidence,
she doesn't seem to be lacking in that department.
She doesn't. But even Fish has had a hard time this year at times, and I think it just takes the sophomores to break a little bit emotionally to understand, like, oh, this is the next step for me. And she struggled for a couple games. After the Bucknell game, she struggled with turnovers and things, and I didn't play her. And I think it bothered her. And so now she's starting to do more things that we're asking her to do. And heck, you're going to get minutes if you're doing that. And I think she sees that. But the intensity and aggressiveness that Fish brings right from the get-go is what we need. And I just love watching her do her thing out there.
Indeed. Well, it's time for our first time out here on Beyond the Arc with Coach Gebbia. When we continue, we'll sit down with senior guard Kaitlyn Marenyi. That's next. Welcome back to Beyond the Arc, as we're now joined by senior guard Kaitlyn Marenyi, and thanks for taking some time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Now, senior captain, that's got to sound pretty good.
Yeah, still sounds kind of crazy, but yeah.
What did it mean to have your teammates vote you as the lone captain this season?
That was really special to me. When I went up for my meeting after the preseason, the coaches had told me that all of my teammates had voted to me, and I was just voted for me. And I was just kind of like, wow, like that's pretty special, especially with how much I've put in to grow as a player and a leader. That was big for me.
What did Meg tell you about taking on that role and becoming the captain? And what did you think when you first heard it? Like, okay, wow, this is kind of a big title bestowed upon me.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was also unsure of what it would really mean because, of course, every team is different. So I wasn't sure how I would need to go about leading this team. So they actually asked me, will it be too much if you're the only one? You have a lot on your plate. We don't want to put any more on your plate. I was like, I think I can do it. If this is what you want, like I can do it. Mm-hmm. So just trying to figure out, we were kind of knew that we were a young team, 4 freshmen and 5 sophomores. So I knew that there would be some opportunities to lead them along, but I was excited.
And it's been an interesting path for you because every year coming into this year, you've had a winning season in Patriot League play, and of course had a chance to go to the WNIT, had a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. So you have a winning pedigree that you're able to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And even coming from a winning program in high school too, I think has helped me along. And I'm used to winning. I want to win, and so kind of really instilling that in our younger players and the rest of the team, and what it takes to get there too. Because just because we've had successful seasons in the past doesn't mean that we're going to now. So what it takes to really have a winning season and post-conference play.
So what does it take? Like, what are some things that you're sitting there and having to preach to the youngsters and to everybody on the team?
Yeah. Consistency with effort and grit every day, in practice especially, and really just kind of approaching each day with urgency. That's what we've talked about a lot about this year, and I think we've gotten a lot better with it over the course of this season, but definitely urgency is something that was a focus for that.
Now, when you first came here to campus, you had some pretty good players that kind of helped bring you along. Mm-hmm. Who are some of them that helped lead you along when you were a freshman coming here to campus, both as a student and as an athlete?
Yeah. Well, when I came in as a point guard, I was obviously playing behind Maria Ledane. Yep. So I immediately think of her and everything that I learned from her. She really was the player that would do all the details, and maybe if she's not scoring a lot, but she was always like getting assists and setting people up. And she ran the offense and obviously was a good defender. So really learning from her all the small things that needed to be done in order for the team to be successful. And then of course watching Emily Kinniston with her grit and Alina and Kaitlyn's shooting. Just kind of everyone, pieces from everybody. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot my freshman year from them.
When you say about Maria teaching you the ideas of, hey, if you're not scoring, there's other little angles, you can become you can chip in and help the team win. Is that a part that you've thought about in helping you become such an unselfish player on the floor, as well as when Coach Gebbia decides to need you or use you in different positions and spots and roles within her scheme? You're cool to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I came into this program thinking of myself more of like Maria, more of a passer, and it was the coaches who were like, no, we need you to be a scorer, especially the last 2 years. And so, I watched how Maria did that, and that's kind of how I tried to model myself with doing the small things and setting people up, that sort of thing. And then, like I said, it was the coaches who were like, okay, great, now we need you to score.
Yeah, putting a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
And you speak about putting a lot on your plate, and one of the big things that you're doing is you're student teaching, and you're doing it at the National Presbyterian School. Take us through that and sort of how that happened and how your typical day is, because it's a long day.
It is a long day, yeah. So I was actually there last semester as well. I was with 4th graders, and then now I'm student teaching with a 3rd grade class, and I love it. A typical day, I wake up at 7:15, closer to 7:30, and I start my day at the school, and I'm there until 1, and then I come down to practice until about 4, get some treatment in the training room afterwards, and then head out closer to 5, and then go off and do some lesson planning and getting ready for the next day.
So what's the toughest part of that? Just time management, I'm assuming, like figuring out and having to rush around and know when you've got to be where? I mean, there's not a lot of downtime, it seems.
Yeah, no, there isn't. And I would say the toughest part isn't as much time management, just because I've gotten used to that a little bit throughout the last 4 years. I would say it's when I have a little bit of downtime, really wanting to take that downtime instead of doing something else maybe I'm supposed to do. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, is trying to get everything done when I just maybe want to take a nap after
right.
after practice.
How fun was it to have some of the students from the National Presbyterian School out here for the game against BU, against the Terriers? Mm-hmm. And it was fun to have them out here, but then you guys were able to pull off the W as well. So all that kind of encompassed into a pretty fun afternoon for them.
Yeah, that was really special. I had been talking with the headmaster at this school for a couple weeks in advance, and he would always be like, we're going to be there. We're going to do the chorus is going to do the anthem, and then just kind of talking throughout that week. Teachers would be like, oh, well, I'm going to be there. I'm bringing her daughter, who's also a student of mine. So it was a lot of excitement built up throughout the week, and then watching them come out and the chorus sing, I had like a little proud moment. I was like, those are some of my students were from last semester were in the chorus, and I saw them kind of turn to me as they were all lined up and I was behind them, and they would be like, Miss Marenyi, and so it was really special. And then of course we got to sign autographs for them after the game, and they were really excited, and I think it was fun for them to see me in this environment too. But it was really special, and there was faculty there, parents obviously came with the students, so it was really awesome.
Now I realize they're youngsters, but have you or have they asked you, or have you played at recess with them at all, basketball? Have you tried to do anything with them out there?
They've asked. I haven't necessarily done it, but it's funny because they love to ask about basketball at not the most ideal times. It'll be during a lesson. It's like, oh, did you win last night? Or how much did you win by? Who's the best player on your team? Where did you guys play? They love to ask that during lessons, and so I'll try to be like, well, we could talk about that at recess, or we could talk about that at lunch, but they want to talk about it right then. Yeah. So it's fun. They definitely are interested in it, and they want to know about it, and it's fun.
Well, you can incorporate it into fractions and incorporate it into math,
totally.
And, I mean, I never thought when I was in school that I'd be using math as much as I am now, but now with analytics and numbers everywhere, and that's what sports has turned into.
Absolutely, yeah.
Teaching has really been a passion of yours since you were just a little tyke.
Yeah.
Because you, from what I understand, one Christmas or something, you asked for an overhead projector, is that right?
I did. I believe it was Christmas. I can't remember if it was Christmas or my birthday, but I asked my parents for an overhead projector, and I got one, and I got the slides and the markers and everything, and I would go down in our basement, and if I had someone with me, I would want them to be the student, of course, and for me to be the teacher. But if no one was there, it's fine. I had my imaginary classroom where I'd be both the teacher and the student, and I'd call on myself, and I would just stay down in my basement, and I would pretend to be a teacher.
What class did you teach the most down there? What's your?
I have to say I don't remember specifically, but if I had to guess, it would be math, because I'm a bit of a math nerd. So that's my guess.
Let's jump back into the basketball component of things. Since you've gotten here on campus, what part of your game have you seen expand the most?
I think my confidence with shooting, probably. Coming into this year, my coaches really kind of hyped that up for me, and I put a lot of work this summer into my shooting. And so, just trying to look to do that more.
And is that beyond the arc? Like, when you look, you're in the top 10 in three-pointers made in AU women's basketball history. So that's pretty cool.
Stat. I did not know
that's
that.
a number for you.
Yeah.
So is that something that you've really been working on, is trying to get that three-point attempt down? Are you trying to work on driving a little bit more? What angle are you really focusing in on?
Yeah, I would say this year especially three-point shooting. Trying to to really develop that a little bit more so that I can get more drives to the rim, or so if I draw attention, then I can get, you know, other people open with when I'm on the perimeter. So I've worked a lot on improving that.
Why number 22?
Well, I was 21 in my AAU days, and then that wasn't an option when I came here. So I was like, well, I'll take, you know, next number up.
Yeah.
So I chose 22, and then after my freshman year, I had when we went to Under Armour, I had the option to change numbers, and I was like, well, you know what, 21 I guess was the number of the past. I'm going to be 22 now, and I'm going to take that through college with me.
And it's worked. It's worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
When you think back of all your time here at AU, and you think of the classes that you've had, hard, easy, all of them, what's the toughest class that you've had here at AU? Anything in particular really stick out as or thank goodness that's over with? Yeah.
I would say that I've had some tough psychology classes that are really detail-oriented, but my toughest semester or semesters have definitely been my previous semester, which I did practicum, which is half student teaching, half taking courses. So the courses were methods courses, and then I would spend about, I think it was 14 hours a week in the classroom. So that was definitely a difficult semester because there's a lot going on. And then now student teaching, I thoroughly enjoy it, but it's difficult just with how busy everything is. So I would say these two have actually been my toughest semesters, even though I've definitely had difficult courses. But yeah.
Now, lastly, before we let you go, what is, as your basketball career winds down here at AU, what is it that you want to be remembered for? Anything in particular stand out to you?
I think just being about the team and trying to lift everybody around me up, especially this year as a leader and a captain. I've really tried to take that role and run with it, and just lift those around me up. And so I hope that they think I have done that. But yeah.
Still plenty of basketball to be played this year, though.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking some time.
Thank you.
That's Kaitlyn Marenyi right there. We'll be back with more Beyond the Arc right after this. From a senior to a junior, from Marenyi to India Sanders, it's time for another edition of our Mic'd Up segment.
I'm too ahead of my time, bro. I'm ahead of my time. I'm a lyrical genius. I went to the year 3000s before the Jonas Brothers did. I should rap my rap from 7th grade. Big Mac, Indy, don't mistake it with... Those are straight bars, bro. Get Jay! Hey! I'm out. Morgan, you go in. Get Jay, get Jay! Hey! Okay, and dunk it, bro. Dunk the ball. Hey! Hey! She said, whoo! She was waiting for that. She had that one in her back pocket. She was like, ooh. Well, AU fans, it's time to go to class because we here at AU, are student athletes. It's time to go learn some biology about plants, fungi. Have a great time. Thanks for tuning in.
And as we continue on Beyond the Arc with Coach Gebbia, you just had a chance to see the Mic'd Up segment with India Sanders, and she really brings the personality.
She absolutely does. I think it shows her personality. I mean, she's just outgoing. She's got quick-wittedness. I think she has good one-liners, and when she's hype, I think the entire team is hype. So it's always fun to watch her kind of on the side because I can't hear anything. Like when I'm out in practice, I never hear anything.
That may be for the better. That may be
probably true. But most of the time I don't hear that stuff, so being able to watch it is kind of cute, just to see how she kind of intermixes with her teammates and stuff, and gets them kind of focused.
When you look at Kaitlyn Marenyi, who I just had a chance to speak with, and the balancing, we talk a lot about balancing in basketball, right?
Sure.
You know, and splitting time and time management and all that. How has it been for her in trying to obviously have her go do her student teaching, but then have her be such a big part of this team, not just as a player, but as a leader on the team as well?
I mean, if you ask Katie, I'm sure she tells you she's stressed. It's a lot, obviously. She's the leader on the team. She's the only captain. And then most of the day she's at school teaching kids and has to rush here to get in time for practice. And it's a lot to ask of her. But I think if anybody can handle it, Katie can. She's very good at managing her time and being where her feet are. And we kind of talked to her a little bit about that before the season started. Like, listen, I know this is your future, but when you're in basketball practice, you need to focus. And I have yet to ever see her not focused when she comes running in from student teaching and runs into practice. So I'm really proud of her for that, because I think that can wear you down emotionally. It can wear you down mentally. And she comes with the energy. She comes with the focus and the mentality of like, hey, you know, this season's not over. I'm a senior. We want to win. Let's keep going. And it's just good to see and have somebody like that can do both.
And senior day last weekend, of course, honored Kaitlyn Marenyi as well as Morgan Bartner. Just take us through your emotions on that day with two players that meant something different to you, but both had a special meaning to you.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Even before the game, I got a little teary-eyed when we were talking about senior day. And I think one of the kids wrote on the board, like, we do it today for them. And like, that just breaks my heart to see that. I had to erase it before I started my pregame talk. But yeah, it didn't finish the way we would have liked. But just to see them out there competing and doing what we're asking, and they're still playing hard regardless of how the season is going. And they just mean so much because of what they bring. I think the hard work and just the role model aspect of it, they're showing the younger players, like, where they're trying to carry on the people before them, their legacy, right? They don't, even though it's not, like I said, I keep going back to it, the season's not what we want it to be, but like, they know that at any point in time it could change, and they want this program to continue to get better each and every year. And you have to go out on a high note regardless of what that is or what happens during the course of the year. And they just have never given up, and I can't praise them enough for that.
Best of luck against Navy as the postseason is upon us.
Looking forward to it.
That's Navy against the Eagles in Bender Arena on the campus of American University, Saturday at 2 o'clock. For Coach, I'm Dan. That'll do it for this edition of Beyond the Arc with Coach Gebbia. We'll see you next time.